Hello and welcome to today's historic best of 3 deck tech video on black-white tempered steel. Tempered steel is a deck that relies on relatively aggressive artifact creatures and also the card of the same name to make those artifact creatures get a little bit bigger, running a full 4 of copies so we can make our aggressive artifact creatures translate very well into late game. We have in the aggressive artifact creature slot, we have for Court Homunculus is just a 1 mana artifact dude that gets bigger not only from the tempered steel but from other artifact creatures. 3 copies of Scrapheap Scrounger as a aggressively slanted 2-cost card that can make use of creatures in our graveyard to pose as a sticky recurring threat. 4 copies of Vault Skirge is usually a 1-drop that is both evasive due to flying and can help your life total with lifelink against aggressive mirrors. Also running 4 copies of Stonecoil Serpent, a nice big artifact creature that's an X-cost spell that also has reach in the form of, well, literal reach in this case, but reach in the form of trample or a form of evasion, and the occasional protection from multicolors does matter, as well as it's nice to have just an X-cost spell to pump all your mana into whenever you need it in the future. We also have a couple removal spells. We have 4 Skyclave Apparitions. While not an artifact creature itself, it's a card that is basically a removal spell on a body, so I'm awfully fond of it. Also running 3 copies of Baleful Mastery as just a cheap, pretty much guaranteed exile, really annoying thing on our opponent's board. And if we have to give him a card, so be it. In the support card slot, I have 3 Mana Tithes, which is a fun little unexpected blowout card in Game 1, but you oftentimes will cut the Mana Tithe Game 2, since the surprise of Mana Tithe works only once. Running 3 Inquisition of Kozilek and 4 Thoughtseizes as our information getter, as well as a sort of removal spell slot for our opponent's hand. The numbers, don't be married to, say, 4 Thoughtseizes and 3 Inquisitions. You can flip numbers around or sort of experiment to your heart's content. Lands, pretty easy. I have 3 Spires of Industry as a way to make colored mana lit with all of the artifacts we have on the battlefield. Running 4 copies of Blinkmoth Nexus as a artifact creature man land, basically, so we always have something to do with our mana later on. Also makes tempered steel drops or draws later not as dead if you can, say, make a Blinkmoth Nexus even bigger. I'm running 1 copy of Silverquill Campus for some scrying, as well as 1 copy of Castle Locthwain for some drawing. The reason why we don't run multiple Castle Locthwains is because we don't have a whole lot of swamps in the deck. So this is equally often as a enter the battlefield tap land as it does just enters untapped. So that's why we have the Silverquill Campus, if you're wondering at home. Running some Godless Shrines and some black-white pathways is some good color fixing, and then some swamps and some plains. Pretty simple. Sideboard, also relatively simple, but this sideboard is more indicative of what I face. Your mileage might vary, and you might want to switch things up. Running 2 copies of Soul Guide Lantern to deal with opposing graveyards, but still sort of make use of ours with cards like Scrapheap Scrounger. Running 3 copies of Fracture as artifact enchantment removal, and hey, the occasional planeswalker kill spell is very nice. I have 2 copies of Approach of the Second Sun here against the decks that like to grind value for a million turns and never kill you. You bring in Approach of the Second Sun, since approaches will give you effectively a hard win con, which is something that these mid-rangey grind you out with card value forever style decks don't typically tend to enjoy. It also can just be a gain 7 life spell against aggro if you need to be. 2 copies of Thalia as a early aggressive creature that can mess with our opponent's non-creature spells, which are common enough that you want Thalias in your sideboard. A couple Archons of Mirias to sort of really slow down, I want to say storm decks, but not necessarily storm decks. Just decks that want to cast multiple things in a turn. Being able to slow it down to 1 each turn. This deck does not mind playing at 1 spell a turn, so we don't mind taxing ourselves. We really care more so about taxing our opponent. I run 2 Wrath of Gods and 2 Kaya's Wrath as just a good like sweeper protection against like aggressive decks or like an elf deck. Of course, you might not need the extra Kaya's Wrath. This is where earlier how I said in the sideboard your mods will vary. Don't be afraid to say doctor up some of these wrath count numbers or even these fractures. I would just recommend that each person try it on their own and just kind of get back to me. And that is the basics of Black-White Tempered Steel. Want to say thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and I suppose I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.